Hi there YouTube, welcome back to, I suppose you call this like a little bit of an extra video because it's not going to be replacing my normal black powder update, which will be coming a little bit later. But I just basically thought that I've actually managed to finish all of the miniatures that came in Core Space, so I thought that I would basically show them all off now that they're painted. I understand that it may not be everyone's cup of tea, and you know, I'm not going to be offended if you decide not to watch it. But yeah, anyway, people that do, I hope you enjoy it, because I basically I spent I suppose in reality I managed to paint these guys quite quickly. I reckon they probably took me maybe a week and a half, something like that, to completely finish them all. Which for me is quite fast, but then they are sort of like heroic scale, so they're not quite so sort of beefy as some miniatures, and of course not all of the colour schemes were that complicated, so they're basically painted up pretty fast. So first of all, I'm going to go for the miniatures that would come in the if you were to just buy the game retail. So let me just bring these guys in. So this is basically the inside of that box that I showed you at the start, and these are all of the miniatures that would come in the retail version if you were to just buy it from direct from a store or from Battle Systems themselves. And I'm basically going to go through them. We'll start off with the bad guys, the Purge. Now I do actually have two sets, two identical sets of these guys. And there's only really one paint variation between them because I decided to go for a sort of a uniformed theme, basically to paint them as quickly as possible but for them to still look quite good. So let's just get these ready. Zoom in a little bit, centre them a bit actually. Here we go. So these guys are what's called the Purge, and these are the bad guys. So I wanted to, the sort of the artwork and stuff has them looking like sort of quite white stroke tannish. I quite like that idea, but I didn't really want to go white. So what I ended up going is using a sort of an Africa Core highlight, and what you end up getting, basically. They're really easy to paint actually. They're literally just primed and painted black and then literally dry brushed with Africa Core highlight, and you get this sort of really cool sort of toned down sort of tanny colour, and I think they look really cool. And then I just added like the red eyes and the sort of the blue for their like reactors and stuff, and the blue for their sort of their plasma weapons. And they were so simple to paint. I was so happy when I sort of came up with this idea, and I didn't plan it. It just sort of happened by fluke, really. Because normally I go into a lot more detail on my figures. You know, I have a lot more steps. I generally just don't deal with just painting something, base coating something, painting it black, and then dry brushing over a certain colour. And you can see that like there's different sort of colour variations depending on how much sort of colour I used, and it came up with this really cool sort of like randomised sort of version of like ones that are slightly older, ones that are brand new, and it just worked out really cool in the end, really. So that's you basically get 5 poses of these basic guys. I think they're called harvesters, these guys, and you can see they've got their sort of plastic base, which just comes as standard. I was kind of thinking about perhaps changing them to clear bases, which I may or may not do in the future. So there's 2 more of these basic guys to go. Bring those guys in. I mean, like I say, these guys, you know, they're all like harvesters, so they're all basically the same. Then next up from the harvester, we have what's called a Juggernaut. I think it's a Juggernaut. And these guys are, I think they're called Juggernauts. I've kind of forgotten now. Anyway, I'll try and find out and tell you for sure. But basically, these are like the next threat level up, or the next sort of version of a basic harvester. They're a little bit more sort of meaty, and again using the same technique. I think these guys came out really cool looking for such a basic. You can see that I went a little bit more for like newer for this guy. You can see he's a lot more sort of smooth and not so sort of worn down, where this guy's just a little bit more worn. I think it's really quite a good effect. So that's, I think they're called harvesters, like I say. And then finally, next up after that is what's called an assassin. And I went for a sort of dark version assassin for this particular one. My second one in my second set, I did in a more sort of standardised colour, just to differentiate them. I think it looks really cool in this sort of like really sort of black stroke dark grey. You're not expecting this to jump out the shadows behind you, and suddenly all you see is 2 red lights and a blue reactor. So that's the assassin. And then finally, the meanest of the lot, the live one. I want to keep these guys like really ominous, so I kind of made him really subdued. He's literally got the same sort of style, sort of coveralls, and he's got this sort of like, I think I used Africa Core, what was it, Panzer Race's Africa Core highlight, or Africa Core base colour, to use for his skin. And I didn't even bother giving him eyes or anything, just so it looks like so ominous under that sort of shawl. These guys are pretty nasty. You definitely don't want to meet one of these boys. Okay, so that's the purge. Next up, we'll go for the 3 civilians that you get. So we have this guy, this girl, and an alien. So let's show you those guys. So I can't remember any of these guys' names. I think this guy's called Ganek. So I'll show you him first. It's kind of like, these guys are like civilians. They sort of roam around the board doing their own things. I kind of more or less followed the illustration on his character card for this guy. But I had to kind of come up with my own scheme for his lower half. But I think he came out pretty cool. Then we have, again, I can't really remember the names of these particular last 2 civilians, but here we have a female, and like a sort of a blue body warmer with a backpack, wearing shorts and some sort of dark grey boots. Again, mostly followed off the artwork of her character card. Now finally we have this guy, which I call the hipster. I sort of went off on my own tangent on this guy. I gave him sort of like a cork brown sort of jacket, Italian tank highlight trousers, which is sort of like a sort of a mint green sort of colour, and a sort of a blue shirt. I think he came out quite cool actually. So that's the 3 civilians. And finally we have the 2 base crews that you get with the basic version of the game. So we'll actually bring them both out. So now again, I can't really remember everyone's names for these characters, but if I can't remember the name, then I basically won't say anything, because there's no point I mean, I could look it up, but I mean, messing around. So I know that this character is the captain of this particular crew. Try and get it focused. Here we go. I think her name is Ariane. Again, I sort of semi-copied the artwork for her. So she's basically in sort of like a blue jumpsuit, and she's got like a red cape. I've given her like a scarlet cape. I think she turned out pretty cool because she is like quite a small detail miniature, even though she's 28mm. And I was imagining I'd have a lot more problem doing eyes and stuff, but I really had minimal problems doing such tiny little eyes, and I think they came out pretty cool on her. So that's her. I believe it's Ariane. She's the captain anyway. Then this guy. Now I know this guy's called Roy Kirk. He's in a bit of an odd pose. It's one of those poses that'll have to grow on you. But I do quite like his colour scheme. It's sort of semi-based on his artwork. But I gave him black hair rather than grey hair. And he's sort of got his blaster at the side. There's the holster for it. So that's Roy Kirk. This guy, I can't remember his name. I think it could be Tigregard. Again, semi-based on his artwork from his card, but with a little bit of my own sort of imagination added to him. I think he came out quite cool. And then finally, the alien chap. Now, again, I've kind of forgotten this guy's name. I think it could be Gak. So he is like this weird three-armed alien. He's got blue skin. He's in sort of like this sort of crimson red jumpsuit with sort of dark grey armour. Now some people paint his legs uncovered, as if he's just got like wrappings around them, but I decided to give him like sort of weird boots. I think it turned out okay actually. I decided to, because he's in sort of quite dull colours, I decided to give him a white painted up blaster rifle to sort of contrast against this sort of dark colours, which I think ended up working out quite cool. So that is Gak. Now, the second crew. Now, I definitely can't remember any of these guys' names. I think one's called Renton, but I can't remember any of the others. Possibly, I think this guy's called Beck, actually. Let's just show you Beck first. So I think this guy's called Beck. I'm not 100% sure. I kind of went for, I went against his artwork for a colour scheme on this guy, and I decided to sort of base this guy like roughly on sort of Luke Skywalker's Bespin outfit. And because I thought, well, I was looking at his sort of face, and I thought, well, that's kind of like a Luke Skywalker type of sort of hairstyle. I'll go for the sort of the Bespin outfit look, and I think it came out quite cool because it's literally just painted in one colour. But I think it came out looking quite befitting for him. So that's this guy who I think is called Beck. Next up, we'll go for the second guy that I can remember his name. I'm definitely reckon this guy's called Renton. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. And this guy, I decided to go for a sort of like a ex-military type looking guy. So I've given him some sort of like sort of semi-camouflage sort of trousers. He's got sort of green camouflage armour, and he's got this black leather jacket. And he's got like some sort of shotgun. Looks pretty mean. I think he came out quite cool for the sort of the basic sort of colours that he's in. Next up, we have a guy who, when I was looking at this guy, I thought, well, he's kind of, he kind of looks like he's sort of like in a rebel flight suit. And then I remembered back to there's a sort of an old expanded universe character from Empire Strikes Back, who you briefly see in a scene where Cloud City's evacuating. And it's basically this fat guy in an orange jumpsuit carrying sort of like what looks like a sort of a white ice cream maker. And I decided to sort of, when I was sort of looking at him, I thought, well, this guy kind of looks a bit like a rebel pilot. I'll sort of paint him up like that. But as I sort of carried on painting him, I thought, well, this guy actually looks a lot more like that obscure character from Empire Strikes Back. I think I'll sort of semi-base it on him. So the only difference being that that character's actually dark-skinned, but he's about the same sort of width, because he is a bit of a chubbo. But instead of obviously a white ice cream maker, this guy's carrying like a white casket. So that's my little homage to that obscure character. But I think it looks really cool. And then finally, I was looking at this guy. Show him from the back first. I mean, you can have your guesses to the sort of the 70s sci-fi show that I decided to end up basing the colours on for this guy. But it all was to do with those clasps there. So basically I was looking at this guy and I thought, well, first of all, I'm going to paint him up in my own colours. I'm not going to copy the artwork. And I was looking at him and I thought, okay, I'll paint him up like sort of Han Solo. But as I was sort of painting his jacket black, I thought, wait a second, I recognise those clasps. And I ended up sort of basing him on like an old school Battlestar Galactica Colonial Warrior. And I think it looks quite cool in the end. I think I just got a slightly different, slightly darker brown to what their actual jackets are, but I think the sort of the premise is there. And I was very happy with how this guy turned out. And this guy is the captain of that second crew. So that is all the miniatures that are in the basic set. And now we shall crack into the extra figures. And I won't bother showing you the second set of Purge, because they're more or less the same, but I will show you the extra Purge character that you get. I think this guy's called Annihilator. He's some sort of extra beefy, tough enemy guy that you can meet in like a lot later missions. And again, painted in the same sort of colour scheme. I think he came out looking really cool. And he's quite intimidating. He's a lot bigger than your average harvester that's been run in, for instance. You can see that he's they just tower above a normal harvester. So that is the Annihilator. Next up, let's go for the security and the Galactic Core. So let's bring these boys in. Now most of these figures were either Kickstarter exclusives or came in a set. I can't remember the actual set names, but there was like 2 or 3 sets of separate characters that you could get as add-ons, and you get them all together in what was called a Mega Minatures pack, which is what I ended up getting. And you basically let's bring in the this guy here. So these characters here. So we've got let's just move those guys back a little bit. So these guys here, these 2 Galactic Core and 2 security guards, these guys came in the Mega Miniatures pack, or were available in their own pack if you wish to get them. So let's show you those guys first. So we've got the 2 security guards. Now these guys are kind of based roughly on sort of Bespin security, or sort of roughly on their sort of colours. I think they came out looking quite cool. They're pretty basic figures. I mean, they haven't got guns, they've just got like electro batons. So there's the second one. I think they came out okay. There's one of those things that kind of grow on you. When you first finish them, you think, well, these guys are nothing special, not the best paint job I've ever done. But as you sort of as time goes by and you look at them, you think, well, you know, maybe they're not quite as bad as I originally thought. And then 2 Galactic Core cops. These are kind of like the military stroke police of the sort of game. And you get these 2, actually it's this one, 2 different posed Galactic Core police troops. So we have this one here. Now, colour scheme for these guys are kind of based on the British Armed Police. They're sort of like anti-terrorist unit, which wear like grey jumpsuits and have black coloured armour. And you can see that I went for sort of like yellow and black for the police, and then they got like a stylised Galactic Core symbol on their shoulder. Again, pretty basic, but I think they do the job. So that's actually a female, that one. And we have one with a pistol. I did almost think about painting these guys in sort of Judge Dredd colours, but I decided against it at the last minute. So these now are the ones that you get as part of an extra Kickstarter. Or the Kickstarter backers add-ons. So we've got a running trooper here. Again, I mean, they're all more or less painted the same, to tell the truth, because obviously they're uniformed. So we have the 4. So you now have 4 Galactic Core. Then we have what I call, it's called the Juggernaut, but I would sort of class it as sort of like a specialised riot trooper. It's basically designed to sort of go in and pummel things. So I went for this sort of slightly toned down sort of grey colour with the Galactic Core symbol on the side there, police on his shoulder pad, and sort of like a yellow stripe down each of his fists. So again, a pretty basic paint job, but I think it turned out kind of cool. And then finally, we have what's called the Director, and this is basically like the sort of command structure of the Galactic Core. And you can see that, again, if you're a Star Wars fan, you'll recognise that this guy bears a little bit of a resemblance to Governor Krennic from Rogue One. And I actually added my own little rank bar there to sort of add to the effect, and I think it came out really cool in the end. So you can see he's got sort of a blaster rifle on his side, got a pistol, he's got a cape. I think it turned out really cool, actually. So that's the Governor. Next up, we'll go for what's called the Gangers. Now, some of these Gangers came as Kickstarter exclusives, and well, not exclusives, but came with the Kickstarter, because I think you'll be able to buy them separately eventually. Let's just find them all. Where are they? So here we go. So I think this is all of them. So now these guys, they came in the these two here came in my Mega Minatures pack, and I think the pack that they came in was called the Metropolitan pack, and it came with 2 extra civilians. And this gang here was part of the extras that you got as a sort of a Kickstarter backer. Now this is this character here is called Zed, and he is one of the characters in like one of the add-on scenario packs. And he's meant to be like the sort of the crime boss. And I kind of, again, I went against his picture and decided to paint him with my own colours. So you can see he's got like a blaster rifle on his back. Got a couple of pistols on his legs. And he's sort of smirking. I think he came out quite cool. So that is Zed. Then this is the rest of his gang, which you can, if you want, actually use as a crew. Next up we have Chunk. He's basically like a bog standard ganger. I decided to, I think I more or less based him on his illustration. I may have like slightly changed his trousers or something. But you can see that this guy is, he's got like a robotic arm, he's got a robotic leg. And he's also got this nasty sort of razor claw type weapon. So there is Chunk. Next up, this guy, I can't remember his name, but he's another sort of ganger. Come on, focus. There you go. Again, this guy's got a robotic leg. And I think I semi-followed the paint scheme of his illustration for this guy. It's kind of cool. And then finally we have this female ganger called, I think she's called Ariane. She's kind of like a sort of an assassin. Very cool figure. Again, I sort of semi-followed or more or less followed the sort of her colour guide. I think she came out looking really cool, actually. A really striking colour scheme in the end. This sort of like you know, very dark grey stroke black jumpsuit with these patches of like dark red, very dark red, almost blood-like. Yeah, very cool figure. So that's her. And then the two gangers that came in the Metropolitan pack. Now, this particular female ganger actually had a mismoulded face. So she basically ended up looking like that sort of internet Mimu character, or whatever it's called. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it was basically modelled off some sort of Japanese demon model that some artist made. And she kind of looked exactly like her. She's got like a mismoulded face. She didn't have a nose. So I kind of semi-made one out of plastic putty, and I got hold of Battle Systems, and they're actually going to send me a new one. But I like this. I like the way she turned out, looking like Mimu. So I kind of decided to keep her. So we have this female ganger here, looking extremely creepy. So that's her. And then finally this chap, again I can't remember the names, more or less like your, well, he does look like sort of a ganger, I suppose, this guy. Kind of went for I think I went for my own colours on this guy. I think he's sort of semi-based on the actual real artwork, but I think he turned out okay. So that is all the gangers. Next up I will do the civilians that came, and the rest of the civilians that came in the Metropolitan pack. So you basically get two extra civilians. These guys here. This guy, I can't remember them. I think this guy, no, I can't remember the names at all. So this guy is supposed to be sort of like a space plumber. I think he came out quite cool. I think he's semi-based on the illustration in his character card. Certainly came out looking quite cool anyway. So that's him. And then finally this, I think, actually thinking about it, it could be called Uma, this particular character. Very strange looking alien. Not sure what she's holding. It could be a microphone, or it could be some piece of tech. But again, I sort of semi-based her on her actual artwork again. Quite a cool little character. So that is Uma. Now the final stretch now will be the extra crews that you got. Now again, I've kind of forgotten exactly which crews go together. I think I can remember one or two. I put the one that I remember in the picture first. these four here, and I'll just bring the others on. Yes, like I said, I really can't remember exactly how these crews all go together apart from that one crew. So I'll just kind of show you them all as a bunch. Okay, so this crew here is from a ship called the Yamato, and we have the captain, who is this guy called Weiss. Kind of did them as a sort of ex-soldier gunslinger type guy. Semi-based on his artwork. I think he came out quite cool. Then we have this female called Alicia. Decided to make her sort of military-esque, and I'm running it low on battery power. So let's hope I can actually finish this off. Otherwise I'm going to have to start all over again. Then we have this character called the Merg, who is a sort of a character that has to be controlled by a psychic link. He's quite a cool miniature, sort of like a strange sort of juggernaut with the beast, in a cool sort of grey-black jumpsuit. I think it came out looking really cool. And finally, we have his handler, who is called Ellen, and she's kind of like her sort of backstory is that she's got like a natural mental affinity with the Merg, which is why she ends up being such a natural handler for one. So that is Ellen. So that is the crew of the Yamato. Now I can kind of remember the captains of the next lot, so I'll kind of bring those guys in, but I can't remember the actual who's with who, basically. So I think that's right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so I think I'm missing one more captain. We'll find out in a second anyway. So here we have three captains. So we have this guy with, I think he's holding a grenade launcher. It's quite mean looking. Semi-based on his artwork. We have this alien guy. Very strange looking guy. And then we have this tubby chap. And my battery ran out, and we're now several hours later in the day. And we're back to this, as I believe my last words were, this tubby chap. So going back in, this is like one of the captains, like I said. I think I more or less based this guy on his artwork. I got to admit, this isn't one of my favourite characters of all the characters that came in this box game, but I suppose he might grow on you. But yeah, I mean, he turned out okay. But I can't see this guy running around many space stations. You know, I'm surprised he could probably run a few feet before being out of breath. But he has got a power fist type weapon on his one arm, and he's got like some sort of shotgunny type weapon, and he's got a blaster pistol. So he's yeah, certainly armed for contact. Now we'll go into the rest of the crews, and like I said, I can't fully remember if these crews are correct, but I think they're as close as what I can remember. So first of all, we'll go with these guys. Now I believe this is the crew that belongs to that fat chap that I showed you a second ago. So he has this female. Like I said, I can't really remember her name, but she's supposed to be like the sort of the rookie of the crew. And I think, I can't remember if I fully based her on her artwork or whether I went custom. She's probably semi-based on her artwork. I think she came out pretty cool. It's certainly quite a cool miniature. So that's her. Then we have this guy now. This guy called, I think this guy could be called Marlowe. So if I can get it focus. Come on, focus. This guy, I believe, is supposed to be like a sort of a psyker, or I think it's called augmented in the actual game. He's quite a cool character. I kind of fully based him on his artwork, skin colour, and practically the way he looks as well. I might have slightly changed the odd little bit here and there, but he is more or less, he looks like he's more or less all in black, apart from the sort of the metallic look of his body armour, and I think he looks pretty cool all in black actually. So that is Marlowe. Literally, I think the only person out of a few of the characters that I can actually remember their names. Then the last character for this group has kind of eluded me, but I think it could be this guy. Again, this is supposed to be like a sort of an ex-soldier type character. Obviously, in the game itself, you can basically choose them to be whatever specializations you want them to be, which is one of the cool things about the game. And also, you're quite free to mix and match any trader you want and mix the gangs up, or rather the trader crews, which is again another bonus. You can basically just use your favourite characters and more or less make them take whatever career you want them to take. So that's three of the guys that I think make up the first crew, along with a fat captain. Next up, I believe this crew here could well have the guy with the grenade launcher as their captain. And we get the rest of his crew. So we have this guy here. Now I think this guy could be called Pi. He's kind of like, I think this guy again's supposed to be augmented via, rather than psychically, more sort of robotically. So he's got like this robotic arm. He's got these goggles on. He's got a blaster rifle on his back. He's holding a pistol. I kind of based his colours more or less on his art scheme. I think he's pretty cool. So that's Pi. Then we have this female character who's supposed to be a sort of a loose cannon. She's supposed to be like a bit psychotic. Again, I sort of semi-based her colours on her character artwork. And she has a stun baton on one hand and a blaster pistol in the other. And I think she came out quite cool. I quite like the colour scheme she turned out. Little bit messy eyes there. I might have to go back in and just tidy it up a little bit. But yeah, I think she came out okay. And then finally we have this character, robotic character called Mac. So bring him in. There we go. So this guy's supposed to be called Mac, and he's supposed to be in the sort of the background. He's supposed to be like a heavy lift robot who was either modified or naturally gained the ability of sort of artificial intelligence to sort of learn, to be able to learn. But I came up with my own backstory, because I was looking at him and I thought, well, wait a second, he kind of resembles a little bit of the old Purge. So I came up with a backstory that this guy was basically created by a military scientist who escaped from the place he worked, traitored, and ended up joining like a criminal organisation, and he built this robot using that chip to kind of as a sort of you basically like send him into a bank, and everyone just basically runs away thinking that he's Purge. And he basically, because in the actual game itself you don't necessarily start with a full crew, you start with like 1 or 2 characters. Well, actually more 2 or 3 characters, depending on how difficult you want your campaign to be. So you basically end up recruiting characters. So I thought, well, this guy could sort of, you know, he basically resembled the sort of same colour scheme as the Purge, but then after he was rescued and his personality started blossoming, they painted him up to resemble his own character. So I think he came out pretty cool. I think the only real difference between this and the artwork on the board is that he's not so tan. He's kind of like more sort of metallic and white. So that is Mac. Next up, now the final crew, or the final remnants of the crew. This is the crew that has that weird alien guy as their captain, and strangely enough, they have another weird alien in with them. Sort of a weird sort of lizard type guy. I based his colour scheme more or less on his artwork, just slightly different. I think it's a really cool colour scheme, and I was very happy with how he turned out in the end. So that's him. Then we have another sort of ex-soldiery type guy. So he's got the khaki trousers, he's got the green armour, and a sort of nice I think I used cavalry brown actually for the sort of base colour of his leather jacket. I think it came out pretty cool. So that's him. And finally, the sort of hippie chick, as I call her. She's probably some sort of psyker again, but she's kind of like, you know, she's got this like white armour and sort of like a tie-dye type t-shirt, and sort of blue hair, a red cape. I think she came out quite cool. Again, sorry, I can't remember her name. Pretty cool all the same. And that brings the entire collection of Core Space Miniatures to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. And like I say, I still plan on doing a black powder update. It won't be a particularly big one, but it will be coming. And I suppose I'll just slap something on the end. When I first sort of did my review of the box set, I was sort of commenting on the shuttle pack that I did. Well, I actually built the shuttle, and I've got to say that I'm as happy with the actual finished product as I was with the anticipation of actually getting hold of one. It's such a cool model. It's literally, to think this is like made out of card. It's really cool. It's got like a fully detailed cockpit. You can pull the chair out. That cockpit door you can push out and have open. It's got like these side engines. It's got like windows. I don't think you can't really see inside, but you can basically take out this back ramp and slide it in as if it's got like a cargo ramp. I think it differs with how you sort of put it together, but on mine you have to kind of loosen the wings a little, maybe even just take them off, and you can actually lift the roof off, and then you've got your interior. And like I said, you can actually pop this rear ramp out and put it in there, so you get like a rear entry ramp, which is really cool. And like I say again, you can pop that cockpit door out, and you can even open the cockpit, and you can actually pull that cockpit chair out, so you can actually put a figure into the cockpit, which is really cool. So I just wanted to slap that in on the end here, because I think the shuttle is probably like my favourite piece of terrain from this entire game. it is like absolutely amazing, and it's definitely one of my favourite models. Not that it was easy to build, of course, but I think it's an absolutely amazing model. And of course it's just as easy to put back together by sliding the top back on, and then simply getting your wings and pushing them on like so. There we go. So just a little thing to add on the end there, just because it's like so cool. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully I'll be back with my normal black powder update, probably within a week. And anyone who is interested in Core Space, I hope you're enjoying it. And other than that, I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.